Hello, hello. I have bits of rosemary on my desk. Don't ask. How's everyone doing today? Hello, hello. How's it going? We'll give everyone a minute to hop on as I try to reorganize my desk here and get all my stuff out of the way. I was just teaching a class. So we just finished that. Hello, Jacob. There's Elliot. Hi, Elliot. Callie. Hello, hello, everybody. So good to see you today on 222. Yes. Hey, Jamie. All right, let's see. Let's go. Saying hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for coming on today. Hello.
How are you today?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I've been so excited about this. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, we were so excited to have you, and I know I've been looking forward to this. I was sitting here like, is it 1 o'clock yet?
Yes. I
Come
was
on.
running for some water in the other room, and I thought, God, I'm going to sound out of breath when I get here or something. But yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. I got my tea. I was like, I have to go get my tea. So see, we were running and getting our beverages. We know how important it is. That's all.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So,
Well, I've been enjoying your show so much. I've been watching some of the
thanks.
back episodes, so this is just terrific. I can't wait to speak with you today.
Yay, that's awesome. I know. I have so much fun with everybody, and I just love it. It's just like Jen's hangout corner. I get to just talk to everybody. Like Jamie Elliford, she's saying she did not want to miss this. Yes, I love
So
Jamie.
terrific. I
So
love her
let's
to death.
introduce you a little bit here and then get to it. Everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. This is Jen from the Cartomancer. Today we're speaking with Elliot Adam, and he is the author of Fearless Tarot. Ooh, look at that. It's so pretty. I love it. That must be
I
so exciting.
love
Look,
that
I'm
cover,
doing my
yeah.
homework. See? I was doing
Oh,
homework.
you read
So
some of it. Good, thank you. Yeah.
I did. I read every
Oh,
book I get. So I am constantly reading a book, and I'm always, it's like for work, I'm working. I have to go read this tarot book now. Sorry. Tough life.
Such an
So
enviable job, though. Yeah.
I love it. No, I do. I love it. So, this is your first book, correct? Yes.
Yes.
How exciting. That's so exciting. So, you live in Milwaukee,
Yeah. Where do you
and
live, my dear?
I live upstate New York. So I live in
Cold
Lake
too.
George, New York.
Yes.
So
Too.
yeah, that weather you're sending over this way. Yeah, we'll be getting that in a few days. Thank you for that
Sorry
very
about
much.
that. Yeah.
We're getting slammed, and I'm like such a wimp in the cold. I hate the cold. But here I am in upstate
Too.
New York. Right, just like you. You're in Milwaukee. Like, what are we thinking? Like, how did
I know.
what?
Well, I sweat just terribly. So if I lived in the South, I'd be like a melting snowman.
Oh,
So
so
I'm
yeah.
glad I'm not there.
So
Yes.
you'd just be like a pile of goo. So we need you in some cooler
Absolutely.
weather. Okay.
Yes.
All right, that makes sense. Fine. Then you have to stay in the cold, but I'll go in the warm. I don't mind. I'll do it for both of us.
Yes.
So, I was reading your bio here. You started reading at 16. Another teenage reader here. And
Oh.
so I think it's really cool too. So you opened a store when you were 20.
Mm-hmm.
So Athena's Art Oracle, it was called. Can you tell us
Mm-hmm.
a little bit about that? Like, how is that? How did that even happen?
Yeah, well, God, let's go back to ancient history here.
We're digging in the archives right now.
So I did start reading tarot professionally when I was 16. There was this cool little tea house in our area with this lady who served tea, but she also had like astrology readings, and like she was a medicinal herbalist, like really cool lady. And so I went there one day and I thought, wow, this is really amazing. And I told the lady, I read tarot cards. And she's like, yeah, sure you do, And she said, well, have a seat and I'll pour you a cup of tea and, let's do it. And I was like, okay. And I was so eager because I just learned and I
Yeah.
was just loving it. And I, never really did it professionally, but she loved it. And she said, "Oh my God, I'm having a fair this weekend where a lot of people are coming for readings. And
Mhm.
would you like to do readings there?" And I said,
Oh my God.
"Sure, I would." And
Yeah.
she said, "You'll get $20 a reading." And I said, $20? People pay for this?
Right. You're like, hold up.
So that was much better than working at the library or pushing carts or whatever I was doing before that. So I
Totally.
said, "Sure, I'll be there that weekend." And then I did the event and it was popular. And then suddenly people were asking for me at this little shop. And so that I would come in and then do readings. Well, anyway, that shop closed. And so I moved to downtown Milwaukee where there was another shop called Hand of Glory.
Okay.
And same sort of deal. I was just maybe 17, and the owners were like, "If you read the three of us owners and we like it, we'll maybe think of giving you a little position here or whatever." And I said, "Okay." So I sat them down, I did my readings, and they were blown away, you know? And
Awesome.
so then they said, "Well, let's promote this kid." And so then there I was, 17 years old, and I'm meeting with people in downtown, and I'm telling them how to get through their divorces or where to put money in the market or whether they should sell their house or not or this or that. And sadly, this next shop, I get this huge following. And then the lady, bless her heart, she was having a baby and she said, "I have to close the shop. We're moving." And, you know,
Oh,
and I was like, "Oh no, I just got all of this, you know, momentum."
yeah.
So I was, 20 when that happened. And my
Mhm.
brother just came back from Germany and he said, "We're going to open a store for you."
Oh
And
my
I
God.
said, "All right, so let's do it." So I moved to this little bohemian part of town in Milwaukee and had all my clients follow me. And then I just stayed there for like the next 5 years, just doing
Okay.
readings and stuff. And that's a long winded answer for
Yeah.
your question, but
No,
that's how it
I
all
love it.
started.
I know. Give it
Yeah.
all to me. That's so awesome. So, being young, was it really hard to run a shop? Like, did it just kind of come naturally to you, or were you like,
Yeah.
what the hell did I get myself into?
A terrible business person. I didn't know anything about, business or
Right.
balancing books or whatever. I'm surprised I could support myself and, not spend all my money, but
Right.
it was an education.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also, a time where I really wanted to like sell books and candles and incense and kind of take the pressure off the readings because in those days, I didn't have any boundaries.
Right.
If I sold a reading, some clients would come in and they'd never leave. They would just sit there and pick my brain as I go through the cards like
Right.
twice in a row. And then it's like, "Okay, what's your next question?" And I was just so nice, and just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, thank you for even coming here." So I didn't know about
Sure.
boundaries. I didn't know about balancing books. And I
Mm-hmm.
developed a lot of social anxiety at that time too. I was overweight and I was like an awkward kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of struggled with having a shop. And in those days, this is like late 90s, early 2000s, tarot wasn't popular. It
No.
was thought of as a scam. It was
Mm-hmm.
thought of as like this illegitimate, seedy business. And
Exactly.
so I had this stigma. So if I go to parties, people say, "Well, what do you do?" And I'd say, "Well, I read tarot cards. I have my own shop." And they'd be like, "That's weird," or
Yeah.
"That's scary," or "Why do you do that?" Or some people
Exactly.
even get angry. So, I kind of struggled with it. And I also played the oboe. So I decided I think I need to be legitimate. I'm going to go to
Mm-hmm.
school for the oboe and
Right.
get in an orchestra, and then suddenly everyone will approve of me. But
Right.
that was a whole, other experience, which took too many years, and I'm glad I had it. But
Yeah.
my God, that
Right.
that seeking acceptance. When you're a
Yes.
kid, you're thrown into something, and you're still a kid. You're still looking for validation or approval, and so I
Mhm.
didn't have really the wisdom, then.
Right, right. I mean,
Yeah.
and it sounds too like you were kind of on your own young. So you were just kind of thrown out there. And I was too. I was out of my house when I was 14. So
Wow,
the
we have such
lessons,
a similar background.
yes, I
And did you do
totally
tarot
relate.
too?
Yeah, I was
Yourself
doing
with that?
tarot. Yep. Just like, but like random, because where I lived, I lived in Long Island, right by New York City there. And there wasn't really a lot. And I was more like out towards the end, like towards Hamptons way. So there really wasn't anything there.
Nice.
And it was hard to even find, and I would put like little flyers up, but then people would like call me and be mad, like, why are you doing this? You know, and
Oh, I
everything.
know.
Right. They were so mean. And you're just like, what? And like you said, it was the boundaries, like learning boundaries. And I think that's a really good point that you brought up too, just for new readers in general. Get your boundaries straight, like ASAP. Because
a lot of us do this to help people.
Yes.
And we want to, make them feel better. But if it's at the expense of yourself, or you're burning out, or you're feeling just like depleted and used, and it's not good for you. You're gonna burn out. You really do need to have parameters. So yeah, I'm big on like policies and rules. So before people even book with me, they kind of know what to expect and how it's gonna go. So that everybody's clear and they have a great experience.
Right. And yeah, because I do the same thing. Like they know we're going, half hour, it's a half hour. That's it.
Yes.
You want to ask more questions, and you can book another half hour. Like, we're done here. Sorry.
Yes.
And it is hard though, like you said in the beginning, like you're just like, sure, no problem. They're like, wait, I got one more question. Wait, I go, and it is. And then it would be like 2 hours later. And you're young, so you're probably getting $20-30 for this reading, and then you're exhausted after, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, this didn't work. So I definitely agree with you on that. So I'm going to backtrack though to the oboe. How did you start? Like, how did you fall into playing the oboe? I think that's fantastic, by the way. I absolutely love it. So like, how did you just like, did you always play it, or did you just like say, all right, I'm going to just play this and be like the master?
Okay, so how that started is, I went to all the rotten schools in Milwaukee, the ones that, people were scared of. You had to go through metal detectors and everything like that.
Yep.
And I was a gay kid in the 90s, and this is before Glee. This is when it's not popular or cool.
Yeah.
And I was picked on horribly. I stood out, naturally. I never was like everybody else. And I was often targeted. So they had a band program, which I'm so lucky they did, because a lot of schools are cutting funding for music.
In that school, sure.
Yeah. So I was there, and I wanted to play the trumpet, but the band director said, there's none of those left. And he said, you can play this alto clarinet, it was called, and it was this long thing with these tubes.
Oh,
it was
yeah,
like
that's
plumbing.
the really big one, right? Like, I played the regular clarinet, because that was all that was left.
No, it's like slim pickings. I was and I'm carrying this big ugly thing around, and it didn't have any good music to play, and I was like, this is awful. What did I get myself into?
Right.
And one girl in the class, she said, teacher, what's an oboe? And he's like, well, let me show you. So he pulled out this instrument. I'd never heard of an oboe before. I never saw one. Right. And he's like, here's an oboe. It looked little. It was like a clarinet, but he showed this little reed in the top. And when he plugged it in and it started to play, it sounded kind of like a snake charmer instrument. Yeah. And I thought, well, that'll fit in my backpack. I'll play that.
Right.
So then I said, I'll take that one. It's small, it's compact. And I started playing it. But what I didn't know is how expensive it was to play music. I was very poor in those days. We didn't have money, and,
right.
So I would go to the library and I'd take out oboe CDs to hear what they sounded like. And I would sit and match the sound with it and try to teach myself how to play.
Right.
And because no one played it, I would get solos, and there would always be these big concerts, and then they'd feature me and things like that in school. Right. So I'm dropping out of all my other classes because I'm never going. And then they're giving me, all this attention for the oboe, and it,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was nuts. So that's how that started. And I kept up with it even when I opened my shop.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you still play now?
No, I just retired from the oboe. I actually went on to get a doctoral degree in oboe performance. I even won a symphony orchestra job. I played with a professional symphony for several years. But COVID hit, and I just burnt out with the oboe. The oboe, you have to make your own reeds out of like a piece of bamboo.
Oh,
and
really?
You whittle the reeds all week. It takes about 25 hours a week of just whittling wood to smaller than a human hair. It's very meticulous.
Oh,
and then one wrong move and you ruin your reed, and it's like 2 days of work is gone, and you're like, And then if your reed is bad and you're in the orchestra, you sound like a duck, and the director looks at you with disdain, and so it's humiliating. And so you're just constantly trying to be perfect, and it just was too much. So I actually stopped playing the oboe and, opened my tarot business, and that's what I do. And
Right.
then I bought a harp. So now I play the harp. I like that much
Oh my gosh,
better. It's
I want a
easier.
harp so bad.
So nice. I'll suggest it to you.
Okay.
Absolutely. Just do
Yeah,
it.
I do. I've been wanting one. So it's so funny because like a couple months ago, I was looking at different ones and like I didn't realize the selection of harps that there were. And I'm like, there's so many. So yes, I'm going to do it now. I'm doing it. We're going to have harp.
Plays
We're going to have
itself. The
harp
good
classes.
sound comes
Yeah.
out right away. So you don't have to like struggle at it and try to sound good. You just,
Yeah.
it's
There
just
you
there,
go. And you're not
Yeah.
whittling reeds. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Like the clarinet, you just like wet it and slap it on and there you go,
I know. Well, don't tell symphony clarinets that. They're
Yes.
always complaining about their reeds, but whatever. They
We'll
they
keep
can't
it
hold a
between
candle.
us.
Yes.
That's so great. So, you've been reading tarot, you've been going through, and now you're deciding to write a book. How did that come about?
Well, I had gotten back from a trip to Europe, and I was in Delphi, Greece, where the old oracle
Ooh.
was. And I was really struggling with music. I'd just done a concert at the Royal Academy of Music in Ireland, and
Oh
I
my
had this
gosh,
huge panic
awesome.
attack and felt awful. So I went to Greece to kind of decompress after that because it's so
Mm-hmm.
cheap to fly around once you're in Europe. And I met this lovely group of people in the town, and they said, who are you? And I said, well, I am Elliot, and I read tarot cards. And they said, oh my God, well, would you give me a reading? So pretty soon I'm reading this whole town, and I
Oh
didn't
my
even
gosh.
charge because I thought, oh, this is so cool. It's
Mm-hmm.
Delphi. This is where the oracle was. And I'm like reading all the people here.
Right,
That's
just the
so, we're just,
experience.
yeah, you're on a broken column and you're just tossing cards. It's so cool.
That's
So
amazing.
I thought this is what I meant to do. So I got back to the United States, and I went to my husband and I said, I think I need to get back into tarot. The music thing is just making me anxious all the time and
Yes.
whatever. And I'm accepting tarot now. I feel like I've come full circle.
Mm-hmm.
And so he helped me build my website. And the way the book started was, you know, as you know, in tarot, it's saturated with voices. There are so many people that they all got their, take on it, and I
Yes,
love it, but it's a lot. And
it is a
I
lot.
thought, what the hell happened in the last 20 years? Because when I was doing this, like
Right.
there wasn't anybody, and now it's just everybody and anyone's doing it. And I thought, well, what's going to differentiate me from all this crowd of
Mm-hmm.
people? And then I thought, well, I'm going to just write about tarot the way I approach it, which is fearlessly. A lot of people get off on flipping a tower card for you and feeling powerful by breaking your heart and
Yes.
telling you how awful it is. And that doesn't help people. And for me, with clients that come to me to get help with symbolism, I'll show them what the shadow is, but I'll give them a lifeline to show them the way out. So you're
Right.
not just like hopeless and doomed and whatever. And
Exactly. Yeah.
so I every day would wake up and I'd go to my blog and I would write an article about that card that I picked for the day and
Mm-hmm.
what the healing message was. What was it really going to tell us? And getting past just our fear of the image and the resistance to getting it. Oh no, the Ten of Swords. I don't want that.
Right.
Where's the lovers? Where's the sun? No, let's stop with this Ten of Swords. Let's look at what's happening. So I
Yeah.
kind of dissected the image and started to write about how people can constructively benefit from that symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And the blog took off, and pretty soon I was getting 1 million hits from people looking up tarot
That's so
definitions online.
awesome.
And they'd say, oh my God, I'm not scared of my cards anymore. Thank you. So by the end of the blog, I had all these things that were just needing to get slapped together for the book. So everything you read in the book, what started out as a blog, I didn't think I'd write a book. I wasn't planning on being an author.
Right.
I'm not a writer. I was like, what the heck is this? But it just kind of happened.
Just here you are. That's so awesome. I love that. And it's also great when you can take your passion and, do it to help people because it is. I mean, as a reader, you're there to help. And, I'm
Absolutely.
always like a homework reader. Like I always give them homework afterwards. Like
That is
I
such a good idea. Give me an example of that. What do you do?
So, if let's say that, so and so she comes in and she wants a reading on her love life, right? So I'm pulling some cards and depending on what I get, of course it's going to probably come around full circle. It's really about her and how she feels about herself and these type, like something like that. So I'll tell her, you know what, for the next week, I want you to just in the morning, first thing, go in the mirror and say something great about yourself.
I
Say
love
why
that.
you deserve love. Say why
Yes.
you're the greatest. And and I tell them, at first it's going to feel weird. You're going to feel like a complete idiot doing it. But you know what? We can give compliments to other people all day long, but we can't give compliments to ourselves. It's the hardest thing. So
Yeah,
that, like for that instance, like that's probably like what I do. So
I
usually when
love that.
everybody leaves me, I give them a little like, tidbit to do or some homework, or I'll even have them screenshot a card. And sometimes it's even the card that they were like, whoa, what's that card? Because I'm like, you know
Yes.
what? I want you to get used to this. I want you to look at this because again, it's like, like even like you said in your book, it's just like looking at it head on, like looking at those fears, like, and being like, wait a minute, this isn't as boogie monster as it really, I thought it
Yeah.
was, right?
Yes.
You
Well, it
know?
changes your posture from this reactive victim who's just waiting for something bad to happen to you to someone who's courageous and proactive and is facing something and saying, you know what? I have gotten this far in my life. I can handle this. I know what this is
Exactly.
talking about. Time to make this work for me.
Right, exactly. Now, I know in your book too, you talked a little bit about reversals. So I wanted to touch on that because especially, like you said, now we have all the things and everybody's opinion on what's right, what's wrong, what's in between. And
Yes.
already, I think I could speak that for everyone that is a serious reader, there is no right or wrong way. It's what works for you.
Yes. Thank you for that. Yes. Thank you for that.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. So, you did touch on that a little bit. So, what do you read reversals? We'll start with that.
Yes, I do, but in moderation.
Okay.
So I find if you're just shuffling all your cards up and, you know, say they're mostly reversed, it really convolutes the message. So
Mm-hmm.
I start with a reading with all the cards facing the right way.
Okay.
And when I start talking to the client about, okay, I'm going to start shuffling the cards, I'll randomly select about 7 that'll turn around or
Oh,
8
okay.
or whatever my intuition does.
Yeah, like
And
whatever.
then I shuffle them. And then when they come up in the reading, I know they're really important.
Got it. Right.
And reversals then aren't this, convoluted, like, oh crap, I remember the upright meaning of this card, but now it's reversed. So what does that mean?
Right.
No, I think the reversals kind of reflect the upright meaning, but
Mm-hmm.
they could indicate that maybe the energy just needs to be directed inward. Or
Right.
maybe this isn't something literally that's going on, but there's an imbalance and you're needing to kind of sort something out psychologically. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it depends on the card. And
Yeah.
then even sometimes when you turn an image upside down, the meaning of it seems to change, sort of like
Yeah.
taking an abstract painting and rotating it and saying,
Right.
oh, I see that new thing in here. Well, suddenly that little rabbit that was hidden away on the Queen of Pentacles card, well, there it is at the top. And now it seems like it's taking precedence. And what's that rabbit? I bet it's like my anxiety. And maybe I'm just
Right.
really in my head too much right now. And I'm
Right.
not the stable, grounded Queen of Pentacles, but I'm kind of neurotic and I'm getting like
Right. Like
nuts here.
hopping all over the place. Right. Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I interpret reversals. If a reader does not have reversals, big deal. Good. There are tons of great readers who don't read
Mhm.
reversals. They don't want
Right.
to bother with it. That's totally fine. There's plenty to go with the 78 symbols available that, I think just reversing them adds a little flavor or color more than anything.
Yeah. No, I like that idea. I want to try that. Yeah, because and I think too that when if you're not comfortable with reversals or for whatever reason they scare you, because I think for some people too they think that it's automatically a bad thing, but like
Hmm.
you said, it just maybe that means the meaning of it is more internal. It isn't about the
Hmm.
situation that you're asking about. And sometimes that it's like it almost like wrecks your reading in a way because you're so focused on it being reversed that you're squashing your intuition at that point, so all meaning's lost in it.
And what do we do, when we get one negative thing in our reading? Well, we go right to there and we look
Mm-hmm.
at it and we ignore the 8 other or 10 other cards that are wonderful and telling you what's really
Exactly.
working for you. And then we're like, oh my God, but something bad must be happening because
Right.
there's the 10 of Swords reversed.
Yes, that's
And
it, we're
so
done.
it doesn't help you to
Right.
think that way. And, I think tarot has to be taken in context with the big picture. And
Yes.
so if you have a spread, you need to have that negative card in the context of everything that's going on around it, because it's also showing you the pathways towards your power and,
Exactly.
what you might want to confront or resolve. And, we're all resolving something. Everybody's going through a struggle, a challenge, a personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't be afraid of that. And we shouldn't just be like, oh, that's not happening. I don't just want
Right.
happy cards. You have to dig into them.
Right. Right. Yeah. And and it's one of those things too, like, once you are so focused on that one card, it's almost like you're just a living four of cups at that point, because you're so busy focused on that you don't see that, like, you have the sun sitting right behind you or whatever, because you're all like, wow, doom spiral.
That's a brilliant symbolic metaphor. I love
that. And life is not all, rainbows and sunshine. I mean, we like to pretend it is. So why would all your cards be, right?
Absolutely.
It's that big picture again, definitely. So, I know, like, with media and movies and, that hasn't helped us at all as tarot readers.
No.
So what can you tell us about, just like, why do you think that they just automatically put tarot readers kind of in that spooky, creepy light all the time? And, why do you think that it's like, I guess what I want to say is, like, why do you think it's so important for us to, kind of dispel those myths? Like, why is it important? Yeah. Or should we just let them think that? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, yeah. I agree with so much of what you're saying. I guess the Hollywood and all that sort of thing kind of makes us look really cool and powerful too.
True.
So, it's kind of cool to be a mystic or somebody who's a little different. But I also do think that it's more used to scare people. But why are people scared? Well, look at the pictures. If we flip a card over and someone's afraid already, and it's the death card, for example, someone who's never read tarot, they'll look at that and they'll think literally they're going to die.
Yeah.
And the thing people need to understand about tarot is it's a collection of symbols. And people who take their symbols literally get a little crazy, in my opinion. And
right.
Sometimes you need to stop and say, what is this symbolizing? Instead of, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? And so, the death card, you got to dissect, you got to look through it. Not only is the word death frightening, but so is that skeleton and whatever. But what does that symbolize? It symbolizes permanent change, a threshold that you cross. And once you cross that threshold, none of us knows what's beyond that. And that's like change in our life. It's scary. Well, if I cross this threshold, I don't know what's there. What's going to happen? There's no guarantee. And I can't go back. So once the death happens, it's irreversible. Yeah. That is kind of scary. And that death potent symbol needs to be potent. It needs to scare us a little bit because there's gravity here. There's a really important decision to make. But knowing that you always have a choice of how you're going to respond to a card or a life situation gives you the power back, so that it's not just the death is happening to you, but instead it's like, okay, I'm responding to this permanent change. What's my posture? Am I going to be courageous and brave and step over this threshold and do my due diligence to have my best life? Or am I going to stay scared and stuck and afraid of change and stagnant? So I don't know. I think tarot is a little frightening because the symbols are frightening. And if you aren't used to them, or you don't have an education and years of reading, or you don't even know how to interpret a symbol, it can seem like a really scary threat to you.
Right. No, it definitely can. So do you have a particular movie that you had watched when you were younger that you saw tarot cards in and you were kind of like, ooh, what's that?
Well, when I was growing up, I was in a severely religious household where everything was controlled, and I couldn't even watch the Smurfs because they were satanic, according to I know, and I loved them. I wanted Smurfette doll and whatever. I couldn't have it, whatever. So it wasn't until I was like a early teen, daytime soap opera was on, and I think it was like Days of Our Lives. And,
oh my God, right!
Her name was Celeste, and she was the tarot reader. And
I know you're talking about.
She was predicting Marlena the demons, whatever. And I was like, oh. And then she, of course, turned over the death card, and you knew it was over for that character, So that was my first exposure to like the media with tarot. But I also had a little exposure to tarot before that, going to the library. There were these books called The Mysteries of the Unknown. They were black, and
Yes.
there was like psychic powers or this
Right.
book.
I know
And
exactly what you're talking about. Oh
yes,
my gosh.
they were a Time Life series of books, and they were so cool. They were illustrated. And I
Mhm.
remember getting the one that had the tarot cards in it. And I just fell in love because I saw the Empress and these magical
Right.
characters, a Queen of Wands. Who is that? You know? So I was fascinated by them, but they always had a feeling of being taboo, especially when you watch soap operas like that.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. No. And I was definitely the library kid, as the poor kid as well over here. Like I couldn't get
Hmm.
any of that stuff.
God, we got a
I
lot in
know.
common.
I love it. This is great. But I remember there was the one of the books that had like the eye on it. Like, I don't remember which one it was, but I would go and they would always be checked out. So you had to like get on the waiting list
Yeah.
because there was like only one copy, the section's this big, and you always had to wait to like get the copy. So I would like get them and this is like plagiarism. Don't tell, but I would like write it out in a book so I can read it again, because I knew I wouldn't see it again in like,
Oh,
for 6 months. So
so sweet.
that's totally what I would do
And that's
because I was
before we could just
fascinated.
screenshot it with the cell phone and save ourselves all that
Exactly.
work, you know?
So yeah, here I am writing books, writing them all out. And I would get
I
like
love that.
the cassettes, like, because you would be able at our library rent like the cassette thing, and it was like in this big suitcase, like it
Oh,
was
God,
so
yes. I love
ginormous with the tapes.
it.
And I used to
Yes.
like try to get all like the magic ones I could. So that
Yeah,
the library was a good place, I have to say.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's where I lived, you know. It was wonderful.
Right, right. Yeah, see, Jamie says writing it out isn't plagiarism, it's note taking.
I
Exactly. Word for word
love that.
note taking. That's exactly what it was. So when you have been reading for others, what cards that were like the scary cards that you think your clients reacted the most to?
Well, what do they call them? The sinister seven,
Yeah,
the three of swords, the eight, nine,
right.
and 10 of swords, the devil, the tower, the death card. You know, I hope that was seven. I don't know if I counted the correct ones, but
That's fine.
uh,
We'll say it's 7.
those ones, yeah. I mean, a lot of times, what I found is tarot reflects the mind of the sitter at the time of the reading.
Mm-hmm.
So if you flip over a negative card and if you approach it honestly, but also compassionately,
Right.
um, people open up. It feels
They
kind
do.
of good to acknowledge what's going on. And I rarely tell people something they don't know already. But
True.
what feels nice is it's emerging and they get a little distance from it. The
Mm-hmm.
beauty of tarot cards or symbolism is it takes these unconscious chattering voices that are ruling your life that you're kind of tuning out and they're always making noise and they're making you anxious and uncomfortable. A reading really takes those voices and puts them on the table in front of you and gives you a little distance and perspective. And
Right.
then you can come out with a strategy with, well, what do I need to do with these unconscious forces? Because the symbolism just speaks that language that we've been painting on cave walls for thousands of years.
Right.
And it feels like you're coming home when you're able to articulate in a symbol a feeling
Right.
you have. It's much like listening to a song that really resonates you. It's like
Yes.
that singer is singing about me, and of course
Right.
he's
Right.
not,
Right.
but he's talking about something that's unconsciously wanting to be understood. And it's like, well, now I understand it, but it feels so good because I'm actually feeling it. So instead of
Right.
my life, I'm just racing ahead of these uncomfortable things, trying to not feel it. Now it feels so healing to actually acknowledge it. And I can put it into words. I can understand it. I
Exactly.
can take action on this now. It's
Yeah,
just such a different posture. That's why readings
it
are
is.
so helpful, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think too sometimes just having like the physical part of the cards too, it almost kind of takes the attention off of them.
Oh,
And
yes.
and then that helps them open up too, right?
Yeah.
Like that definitely helps them to open up.
Yes.
So, I think just especially for new readers, like just taking time, and giving them that time to kind of adjust to that, I think is so important. Do you have any advice for new readers
Oh, God, yes.
regarding, you know, just pulling these cards, and if you get a client that's like, oh no, what does that mean? What is your advice for them?
Well, here's what I learned as a kid. When I started reading people's cards, I was a little unsure of myself. I didn't know. I didn't even know if I believed in me yet or what I
Right.
was saying. I was just kind of speaking through, and I had a gift for the gab, and I talked through things, and it would resonate with people. But I learned early on that when I stopped just trusting the symbols, and when I instead kept looking up to see their face, and if I look up and I'm getting this, or I'm getting, or what, it would throw me off. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm wrong. This person really hates me and they don't like what I'm saying. And what do I do? And I'll just muddle through the reading. And then you get done with the reading, and the person just says, that was amazing. I'm scheduling again next. And you're like, what? Everything you were showing me was resistant and you didn't want to
Yes.
hear it. And they're testing you. So
Mm-hmm.
I learned as a kid, don't look at the person. Don't look at them. Don't look for their approval.
Yeah.
You look at them, you meet them, you shake their hand, they sit in front of you. If you're doing an in-person reading,
Right.
you put out the cards, and now it's you and the cards.
Mm-hmm.
I never look up once. I read the symbols like I'm reading a book, and it's like that person is even in there. And then when I'm done, any questions? Well, most of the time, no, it's covered.
Right.
So I find if you trust the symbols, they'll lead you out every time instead of looking for that approval. So my advice to new readers is don't use body language. It sounds counterintuitive, like, oh God,
Right.
I have to read body language. I have to check in and make sure that no, as long as you're speaking with compassion and you're really trusting your gift and trusting the symbols, those symbols will do the work for you.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, definitely. And I almost feel like too sometimes if you do, when you first start and you do look at them and they're making those, like they're moving around and it's because you're right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they don't like
That's
it
a
and it's
good
making
point.
them uncomfortable. So,
Right.
that's like something that you're just like, that's such good advice too, because like you said, if you just count on that, your confidence is going to go down, and then again that's
Mm-hmm.
squishing that intuition, and then you're just
Yep.
like you said, just fumbling through it just to get to the end.
Well, we all
And
want to be right. We're
yes.
so terrified of being wrong or making a mistake. And what every tarot reader needs to understand is you're going to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll get it wrong. And sometimes you don't have this all powerful ability to read people's mind, no matter what the movies you saw told you should have.
Exactly.
We're all just human beings plugging into each other and bringing our own experiences, our own knowledge, and our own
Mm-hmm.
limitations. And
Right.
sometimes somebody's struggling with something that you might not know how to approach, and that does not make you a failure. It
Right.
just means that now you're learning from that experience, that that failure is the best teacher. It's going to teach you, I need to be more
Mm-hmm.
sensitive of that. And that's why
Yeah.
becoming a good reader, it comes from just doing thousands of readings, hundreds of readings, just
Yes.
getting out there
Keep
and doing
going.
them, because you learn how to craft your message in a way that uh, it's not offensive, it's healing, it's compassionate, and it's helping people. And you're going to make some mistakes on the way to do that.
Right. And I think that's so important, is that you are going to make mistakes, and
Mm.
that's okay. Like, that's okay. We are telling you, Jen and Elliot are telling you, it's okay to make mistakes.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So Amber's saying too that she finds when she looking up for their response or body language can take her out of her flow state. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, that's even going back to just hyper focusing on those reverse cards. It takes you right out of that flow, and then you have to like get it back together and kind of remember where you ended off at, and I think it's so important. Like you said, like, don't even look up. I love that. That's so
A
important.
little advice I want to give is, when you get stuck, when you're afraid and you're stuck, or you're feeling like, God, I must be doing this wrong. Uh, don't try to remember those damn keywords. Oh crap, it's the death card. So that means
Right.
change, transformation, da 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 da. So how do I apply this to this person's cat? Is their cat going through a change, or blah, blah, blah?
Right.
You just stop, and you got to just describe the picture.
Right.
Just describe what's going on in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's the Four of Cups, what you mentioned. There's a guy, he's sitting under a tree. His arms are crossed, his legs are crossed. His posture's not open. And he's in his head. He's thinking about his problems. He's thinking about the past. He's worried about the future. And he's
Right.
completely blind to the fact that coming out of the cloud is a hand offering a golden cup to him.
Right.
You also might be feeling closed down. You might also be feeling you're so in your head about something that it feels hopeless and you're closing down and you're not open. But
Mm-hmm.
right in front of you is a miracle. And if you can shift your perspective to see the gift that's being offered here, you're going to have your breakthrough.
Right.
Boom.
Yeah.
You know, that's the symbol, and you're just describing it, and now you're not stuck anymore. So get out of that keyword mess, or, well,
Right.
my tarot training class said that, you know, this card has to mean this. No, it
Yes.
doesn't. It
No.
is what you're feeling, and just let your mouth run. That's what I
Right.
say.
Yeah, and it is. That's the thing. And I think that is so hard for new readers too, because they think that, or even people who haven't even started yet and want to start, like, I can't remember all the meanings of all these cards. How am I going to
I
do
can't
that?
remember all the
And
meanings. Yeah,
I'm like, I don't even remember. And I've been doing this for a really long time. Like, and it's just
exactly.
one of those things that, sometimes, I mean, I've pulled cards and I'm like, well, what the base meaning is, but in relation to the other cards and what you're talking about, it doesn't even make sense here. And I'm really getting that it means something else.
Yeah,
And that does happen. And
yes, it
people need
does.
to realize, like you said, just run your mouth. just keep talking, because
Trust
there's a
it.
reason for that, for
Trust it.
sure.
Yeah,
Definitely. So we have a question here. So they
sure.
are saying, do you then flip the reversals and read those? So I'm guessing if you get a reversal, do you just flip it, and then go from
Oh
there?
no, I leave it reversed, and
Mm-hmm.
I always look at as well the cards in relation to one another.
Right.
So sometimes another tip I'll give to new readers is we get in a vacuum and we look at each picture on its own in this
Mm-hmm.
isolated whatever. And what you're needing to look at is the big picture, the pattern, how they all fit together, what's all going on there. That's going to be a way where you're like, okay, well, what's going on with this reverse card? Well, what's going on next to it?
Right.
What might it be referring to? So, I mean, there isn't a hard or fast rule for reversals, but like I said earlier, I use them sparingly. Maybe I'll have 7 cards out of a whole deck that are reversed, so
Right.
when they come up, I know they're important.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. And, I always, and the big picture thing, that's so important too, because I actually did a reading yesterday and I got 7, 8, 9. So I thought that was really important. And I'm like, all right, well, there's a progression here. But if I was
Yeah,
looking at them individually, then I probably wouldn't have seen that.
absolutely.
So just as an example to what you were just talking about, that totally popped in my head. So in your book too, you really break down, how to use the symbols in a positive way. And, for those people that are like you know what, I just read how it is and I give it to them straight. And, mostly those are the ones that give like you said earlier, that are like, oh, tower card. Oh, that sucks for you, type readers.
Yeah.
Like, when new people are starting too, what is your advice when they run into those people? Like, what advice can you give them to kind of
Well,
counteract that?
it depends of the spirit of that person, because I've met many talented readers who are like, I'm just going to give it to you straight. And they do.
Right.
And they're funny with it. And
Mm-hmm.
they're not harming you with it. They're just kind of throwing it out there. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
What I don't like is people who get a power trip off of pulling a card, scaring someone or devastating them, and just being like, yep, he's cheating. And
Yes.
it's like, okay, well, what do I do with that?
Exactly.
Or is he or not? Or,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that kind of energy because it's not compassionate. And it basically is showing the level of immaturity of the reader and
Yes.
not the actual message you're getting through the cards.
Right.
So I think, that's why, people who read, the more you do it, the better you get. The more compassionate you get, the more you see the potential for healing with it.
Yeah. No, it is. And it's so important too, because I feel like those people, when people are first starting and they come in contact with those people, again, that's like, oh crap, should I be reading like that? Should I be
Mm,
doing that? Like,
Yeah.
But, and I think just staying true to yourself, and like you said, just whatever you're feeling, keep talking, and whatever those symbols are for you, just keep going, because that's so important. And you don't want to get stuck in comparison either, because we're all
That's
so
so
different.
Absolutely. I write about it in the Five of Wands chapter in my book,
Mm-hmm.
Fearless Tarot. It's all about those adolescents competing and they're all trying to prove something to each other and nobody's winning. It's just
Right.
tension and conflict. If you're a new reader, it's healthy for you to shut it all off,
Mm-hmm.
shelve all the books. You know what? Do some journaling, as Jamie was talking about
Right.
earlier. Sit with your deck and let it talk to you and maybe write about what that symbol's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And even like, you had suggested too, like doing a card a day, writing how it feels to you and all of that. I think that's definitely so important as well. Let me see if we have any questions.
I agree with Tommy. Hi,
Yes.
Tommy.
Hello. I'm just saying hello to everyone. I know we have a question in our little question bubble. Here we go. The Emperor card never comes up for me when I read for myself. What could that mean?
Never comes up the Emperor, did they say?
Yes, the Emperor card never comes up for me when I read for myself. What could that mean?
Well, I don't know your exact situation, but for me, the Emperor is it might just indicate that you're working on something else. Maybe you're working on more receptivity. Maybe the Empress is going to come up more and you're just kind of like learning how to take things in. The Emperor is outwardly directed. He's worldly. He's a boundary establisher. He's like our inner parental paternal voice. Like the father knows best for me, which is
Mm-hmm.
like, these are the rules. This is how it's going to be. It's for your own damn good.
Right.
And maybe you don't get the Emperor because you're not needing that inner parent scolding you right now. Or maybe you're not needing to forge out and start a business and, be a powerhouse in this thing. Maybe it's time to work internally. The Emperor holds the orb in his hand. He's
Mm-hmm.
outwardly directed. He's worldly. So it might be a time where you're really focusing inward. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing if the
Right.
Emperor doesn't appear. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just a couple guesses. I have
Right.
to know the person's
Yeah, no,
situation.
yeah, no. I mean, and I think that's, definitely, it all depends on, even what you're pulling the cards for, like what the situation is or whatever. But maybe it's not time for him to come out and play just yet.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
he'll
that
be
it
there
could
one
be as
day.
simple as
Don't
that.
worry.
You know
One
what I
day
mean?
he'll be there. Yep.
So so this person is saying, I don't have a father, lost him long ago. So, I mean, I think like Elliot was saying too, it really depends on the context of your question and all of those things, but it could really be as simple as it's just not ready to play. That's it.
Yeah.
So we have I Love Love is asking, oh, they're just saying, hi Priestess and Sun as stalkers lately. Okay. And they
That's
have
a
a
good
question mark.
couple of
So I'm like,
stalkers
all
to
right,
have. Those
that's pretty
cards.
interesting, I think. And then any advice for advancing your practice as an intermediate reader?
Advice for advancing your practice. I say we all can just, put ourselves out there more and just read for people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily about making money or things like that, especially as you're developing your skills. I used to go to just a coffee shop and have my cards out and people be curious and ask. And then I'd be like,
Right.
hey, let's do a little reading. So it's reading for as many people from as many diverse backgrounds as you can,
Mm-hmm.
that it really gives you an awareness of people and
Yes.
different situations and things like that. So that's one thing I do for intermediate. The other thing I would do is just get out of that keyword cycle where we're just repeating those darn keywords, and
Right.
they're like a straitjacket. They're good if you're just getting started, but they can be so limiting.
Right.
You might want to just kind of take off the water wings. But yeah, I think just reading more people. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think for me, I started doing expos, which are exhausting, but you want to
Yes.
throw yourself into the trenches and
There
learn.
you go.
That's the way to do it. I really, the amount of people that I would read in a day, and then just all of the different ones, like types, like you said, getting a flavor for everybody's different energy. So and
Yeah.
it does like that. And that's always one thing I always suggested. I mean, right now it's a little hard, obviously, but I think that is definitely a way to do it. Just throw yourself in there and just do it for sure. Um, so let's see. Also reading for people, less helps to advance your practice. The less context you have, they're just making a comment on their life, the more you can trust the cards. So,
He's right.
yeah, which is definitely, it helps for sure. And sometimes less is more,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, if you're doing a reading and you're looking at the cards and you're just getting some matter of fact stuff, then that's it. That's what it is. Like sometimes it doesn't have to be super complicated.
That's my preferred method of reading.
Mm-hmm.
Before I start a reading, I give the client the option. I'll say, I can either do a reading on a specific issue, so we cut to the chase and you can really get to the thing you want, or we can just let the cards decide what they want to talk about today.
Yeah.
And
I do the exact same
a
thing.
lot of people love that because
Mm-hmm.
it takes the pressure off of them. And 9 times out of 10, the thing they're worried about is going to come up in that if you're just trusting what's going on anyway.
Right. No, it's so true. And like, I do the exact same thing. And even like the one reading yesterday, I knew that I had a feeling like she had questions, but I'm like, all right, let's just do this, and then of course it came up anyway, like you said. So it's like you're giving them the option, but the end result's going to be the same no matter what.
Right.
Like totally, like it definitely
Yeah.
happens. So did you have any cards in your book that were a little bit like that you got stuck on, or a little bit harder for you to write?
God. Well, as I said, the book started as a blog.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the cards I would get stuck at because of something that would be happening that day. So it may be
Okay.
like, okay, I have to think of something wise and brilliant quick about this card. And, I have to go to a dental appointment in an hour and I'm, nervous about that. So,
Right.
that would be things that would kind of get me stuck a little bit. What would I say? I didn't feel pressured because
Mm-hmm.
when I started my blog, no one was reading it and it was
Right.
just something I was just kind of messing around with.
You're
So,
just doing it to
um,
do it. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a little bit more difficult. I'm working on my second book for Llewellyn right
You
now.
are.
Yes.
Tell us.
And I'm going to be releasing the cover soon. It's beautiful. It's going to look a lot like the Fearless Tarot cover,
Okay.
but this is called Tarot in Love. And it's
Ooh.
consulting cards and matters of the heart because so many of us as readers have to give a love reading. And
Oh,
we
many.
see, the Five of Pentacles and our keywords are telling us poverty, sickness and whatever. And it's like, well, what the
Right.
hell does that mean in my love life?
Exactly. Like, whoa.
So this book, now I am under the gun to come up with a chapter and I have had cards that I've been struggling with and I'm like, wow, I can't do this in a day. I need to sit with this one for 3 or 4 days.
Right.
What is this? And then I'll do readings during the week and I'll be like, oh wow, here's that card. It's coming up and it's happening in this person's situation about love.
Exactly.
That's what it is,
Like, be right back. Gotta write this down.
Yeah, sometimes I do. I'm on the phone with them. I'm like, and this is happening, and I'm just writing down as
Right.
because that'll give you some insight. So, practice. You're
Yes.
constantly learning. You're constantly drawing new meanings out of the cards.
Oh, I love that. All right, we have a question. It says, I'm a new reader. It can be challenging to bring all the cards together and paint a picture, so to speak. So do you have any advice on that?
I would say start small. Maybe even start with just 3 cards. And instead of doing a past, present, future, I would just do let's put the 3 together and one thing I do when I'm reading for myself or practicing is I'll actually start a little tape recorder and I'll pretend I'm reading a client or another person. And I'll be like, okay, well, you got the judgment card here. And what does that mean? Okay, well, judgment means that there's a rebirth happening, a renewal. And then maybe we'll look at a card that's next to judgment and maybe we're seeing, the death card. And so we're like, okay, we got this ending going on, but there's this promise of this rebirth. Mm-hmm. And so there's the symbols together working off of each other. Or maybe we'll get the judgment card and then we'll get the Ace of Wands, which is like, what's reawakening in your life? What is coming back to life is your inspiration. it's the Ace of Wands. It's this brilliant new idea you need to go with. And what's the third card here? The Eight of Pentacles. Oh, maybe it's with your work. Maybe it's with how you're making money. Maybe you got this really great idea and you need to act on it now because you're coming back to life and this could be really brilliant.
Right.
So that's kind of how I do it. I kind of thread them together. It's like, one sentence, then the next sentence, then the next sentence. And then how does that sentence kind of mesh together in my head here?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. One other thing I always like to do too is kind of make it like a story, like put your 3 cards out and just write it like it's a story, like not even ask the question, just act like, because that just kind of also, I feel like helps to bring it together, because it's not just one card. It's 3. Like it's like one long card in a way. So you just write the whole story about it. And I feel like that's a really good way to practice to help to tie it all together as well. Like I always like to do that too. And I will suggest when I'm doing teaching and stuff for that.
I love that idea.
Let's see. We have some other questions. How directly can I ask the questions, and what good new beginner spread is good to start with? So we kind of talked about that already. So they're asking, I guess, like how direct can you be in your questions is what I'm thinking. What they're going.
Well, for tarot, the more specific your question is, the more specific your answer is going to be. If you walk in kind of knowing what you are looking to know, well, now you have a structure to put the cards and the symbolism into, and then tailor that answer toward that question.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But you can also just wing it. How specific should the question be? I think if you're going to a tarot reader and your objective is to test them and just be like, what are they going to tell me? I'm not going to tell them anything. I hate those readings.
Oh,
it's so exhausting.
They are, and it's such a waste of time.
It's like, okay, so now I gotta, walk around this whole issue and try to, flesh it out, and I'll get there, but it makes it way harder on me. It takes way longer. It's way more stressful for me to just be like, what the hell do you want to hear? Then just, just being open, like, what do the cards want to tell me? And it's not about testing the reader. I think that's so annoying.
Oh, it's so annoying. And, even speaking, like I was talking about, like the expos, people love to do that at those.
Oh God, yeah.
And it is like, they just come and they put the arms and they're just like, and they're like, I'm like, I'm like, why are you here? Like, and it's like, you know what? You're paying for it. If you want me to waste 15 minutes skirting around it and figuring it out, then here we go. But it is annoying.
But it'll come out.
It does. It comes out anyway, and then they're into it, and they got 5 minminutes left, and you're like, well, sorry.
Then they're into it, and they have 5 minutes left. I love that. And then they're mad at you for that.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
So funny.
But it's your fault, Oh, I can't. So let's see. And another question: do you have any experience of seeing tarot symbols in life that felt like a message from the universe?
Absolutely. Happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Happens
Definitely.
all the time. Sometimes you'll pick a card of the day and then you'll see an animal or a word or something while you're walking around and you're like, wow, that's serendipity here.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Tarot is like art, like music, like anything.
Just even the colors.
Yeah, even the colors. I mean, it's always dialoguing with us in the natural world.
Right, absolutely. So we're actually already at an hour, and I feel like I'm just going to keep talking and talking. Well, before I tell you to let us know where to find us, this last question is, what is your favorite card? And they want to know my favorite card, so you go first.
My favorite card has always been the Empress. I've fallen in love with her since the first tarot book I opened, and there she was. And I said, she looked like a goddess or a queen or something from a fairy tale. And I just have always loved her ever since.
Yes, I love that.
I can't read it with a tarot deck unless I like the Empress card.
Right, that's your card. That's your card.
Yep.
Yeah. For me, it's the Queen of Wands. I always look at the Queen of Wands. Like, that's I don't know. And it's like, I didn't even realize that was like my card until someone pointed it out to me, because I was like getting a deck and I always look at the Queen of Wands first.
Yeah.
So that's my card for sure. So,
I love her.
Yeah. Can you tell everyone where to find you?
Well, Elliot Oracle on Instagram. That's my handle. Or you can find me at elliotoracle.com. And if you're thinking of getting my book, Fearless Tarot, and you just want to kind of get a taste for my writing style, you can just Google my card meanings. A lot of what ends up in the book is online. So you can write Seven of Swords, Elliot, and it'll show you my website first. And you can just go there and you'll read kind of what's up there. There's more in the book. It goes a little bit more in depth, but that's a good way to kind of sample things. But Elliot Oracle, that's it.
Awesome. And your website is gorgeous, by the way. So tell your hubby good job.
Well, that's my husband's doing.
Yes.
He is
tell
so
him good
talented.
job. He gets
Jake,
a shout out.
Talent.
I love that. And why don't you tell us too the name again about your new book coming out?
The new book is going to be coming out near the end of this year, maybe the beginning of next, because I'm still in the editing process. But it's called Tarot in Love: Consulting the Cards and Matters of the Heart. So that's going to be all about relationship readings. And what I'm going to do is, instead of just saying, here's what this relationship partner is, or here's what's going wrong in your relationship, every chapter also has something that kind of turns the eyeglass back on the person getting the reading and saying, what is this card really teaching you, though, about yourself? Why do you think you need that person to come back to you who's hurting you? What's this card really showing you about that? So it's not just, giving people like, he's a cheater.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not the one. It's giving them homework. Absolutely. Yes. It's making them reflect and kind of think about themselves and how they're showing up in their relationships.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. This was so much fun.
Well, thank you. We got to do it again.
Yeah, I was going to say, we need to do this again because I don't feel complete. Like, we're not done here, Elliot. We're not done.
And I got to know more about you. So maybe I got to start doing these live things too and have you on as a guest.
That sounds fantastic. I absolutely love it. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. If you came in a little bit late, this will be on the replay right in Instagram on our page. And also, we send it over to YouTube on the Cartomancer Magazine YouTube as well. So there's a couple places for you to get it. And if you don't have it already, get Elliot's book, Fearless Tarot. And if you do have it, take a picture, tag us, tag him, tag Llewellyn.
Yes, I love seeing
all of it. And write a review. Very, very important. It takes 2 minutes and it means the world to us. So everybody, I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you so very much, Elliot. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care, my dear. Bye, everyone. Thanks.